Hello, Eating the Food of Hope family. It's Kirsten here. Welcome to another episode of Weekly Hope. I'm so glad that you're joining us from wherever you may be in the world today. One of the very cool things about the interwebs is that we can broadcast this show from here in Switzerland, for example, where I am living, and you can watch it from anywhere in the world. And we get great viewers and people and guests actually as well from all over the globe. So wherever you are, this morning, this afternoon, this evening, welcome. So glad that you found us. Before I welcome our guests and we dive into our interview, I want to let you know a little bit, especially if you're new, about this show and what we do here. So Eating Disorder Hope is a mental health online resource hub. Obviously, from the name, we specifically focus on resources for those who are suffering from eating disorders, disordered eating, and a whole wide range of issues related to food, weight, and body image. And of course, our website is eatingdisorderhope.com. And we do this show every single week, usually on Wednesdays around lunchtime for those on the East Coast of the United States. And we bring on interviews and we chat about topics that are challenging and tough and interesting and uplifting, and try to just dig into challenging issues in recovery to get these experts wisdom and insight, but also to provide you with some hope and encouragement, as well as an opportunity to ask them questions. As many of you know, I have my own recovery story. That's why I do this and why I'm passionate about it. And I wish that I had a resource like this when I was struggling, to be able to ask a nutritionist, a dietitian, a psychotherapist, an author, someone who'd been through their recovery journey. I wish I'd had the opportunity to ask them questions. So if you're tuning in and you've got something on your heart, please feel free to share it anytime. Of course, if you just want to pop in and say hello and listen, that's fine too. But let us know in the comments your name, where you're signing in from, maybe. And we always just love to see who's joining us. And it's a real pleasure to be able to do this and have this community of people supporting one another, loving on one another, and of course, hearing some really, really good stuff. So that's what we do here at Eating Disorder Hope. That's what Weekly Hope is all about. And I am going to bring in our guest for today. We're going to be tackling a really, really neat and cool topic, one that I know is probably going to solicit a lot of questions. So I am going to bring her on screen here and introduce her. So there is Rachel. Hey, Rachel.
Hi.
Hey there. So glad to have you here. Before I introduce our topic, I'm going to introduce everyone to you. So Rachel Porter is joining us from North Carolina. Where in North Carolina are you today, Rachel?
I'm in Durham, North Carolina.
Durham, North Carolina. All right. So Rachel is joining us. She is a PsyD, an eating disorder professional living and working in Durham, North Carolina, and which is where she just said she's joining us from. Dr. Porter has worked in the eating disorder field for 13 years, all at higher levels of care. Dr. Porter is currently the primary therapist at Carolina House, particularly their gender-inclusive residents, as well as the clinical care advocate for Carolina House. Dr. Porter is an anti-stigma advocate, a health at every size provider, and committed to using her many privileges to support and provide compassionate care and inclusive care. In her personal time, Dr. Porter enjoys spending time with her husband and cats. As you all know, we are very animal friendly on this show, as Elsa usually joins me. Reading and trying to see Hamilton as many times as humanly possible. Welcome, Rachel.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So have you actually seen Hamilton more than once?
I have seen it 5 times so far. Yes.
5 times?
Yes, 5 times. Twice in
New York?
Twice in New York, once in England, once in Puerto Rico, and once here in Durham.
Well, I feel very unaccomplished because I haven't even seen it.
It's worth a watch, or 5.
I know. But that is really, really impressive. And let us know in the comments if you have seen Hamilton more than 5 times. That would be an interesting survey. But so cool to get to know you a little bit, Rachel. Oh, we already have people saying hello. We've got Sarepta. I'm not sure if I'm saying your name right, but she says hello from Atlanta, Georgia. Hey there. As well as Amy. Hi from New Jersey. Hey, Amy. And Sarah, hello from Australia. Sarah's our Australian chica. Nice to see you there, girl. Thanks for joining us.
Wonderful to see you all.
Yeah. So, Rachel, I'm really glad that we have you on to talk about We're going to start with the health at every size movement because it's something that we hear about more and more. And I think there are a lot of misconceptions surrounding health at every size. And so I wanted to, since this is something you're passionate about and you work with every single day with folks at Carolina Health, first wanted the expert to tell us, what does health at every size actually mean?
Health at every size means that we recognize that bodies come in all shapes and sizes naturally, and health is not limited to people who fall within like one specific weight category. It is available to folks across the weight spectrum. And just like people come in lots of different heights, people come in lots of different weights. And there's nothing about a person's body size that naturally indicates someone is unhealthy or not. All you can tell by looking at somebody's body is that they have a body, and also how much weight stigma you might have inside yourself that needs to kind of be worked out. Health at every size uses 6 really kind of core principles, and those are: 1, celebrating body diversity; 2, honoring just kind of differences in size, age, ethnicity, race, gender, ability or disability, neurotypicality or not. All of these different sorts of things are honored within Health at Every Size. It's a very intersectional movement. 3 is that it challenges some scientific and cultural assumptions and recognizes that a lot of the kind of base that we base a lot of our medical decisions off of is sometimes coming from a place that was a little bit more dictated by some diet culture and diet industry than we'd like to know or acknowledge. We value that body knowledge and lived experiences are incredibly important. Nobody knows more about their own body and their own self than the person. Finally, we really want to engage people in very compassionate self-care. And that means when you move, you're moving for the joy of movement. You're finding things that you really enjoy doing to be physically active, whatever that might be, and whatever extent that might be that your body's up for. And we also recognize that we support eating in an attuned and flexible manner. So you're not staying very rigidly to one thing, but as your body is able, you are eating more intuitively, recognizing the things that bring you energy, that bring you joy, that bring you the life that you're really wanting to lead.
Yeah, so good. And this is something that is also supported by experts within our field. And I mean clinicians, right? This isn't
Yes.
just something that's like, hey, just feel good and do whatever you want.
No, this is very supported and very scientifically driven. There are lots of studies that back it up. Certainly one of the best known researchers is Linda Bacon. They've been phenomenally important in getting this word out and have written more than one book on the subject. So
yeah, absolutely. Can you talk a little bit and demystify the whole BMI myth? Because I know now for several years that this has been something that we say you can't measure a person's health by their BMI, but it's so ingrained, I feel like, especially in American culture, as a measurement of health. Why is BMI such a wrong and false indicator of someone's actual
it's really
health?
flawed. BMI is flawed science. It's based on one calculation that basically I can't always remember the numbers and the letters that go into that calculation. It's advanced enough, but it does not take really anything into account about a person's life, about their genetic makeup, about their body structure, about anything. And it also is used as an indicator of health when in reality, all it is one number and not much of an indicator of health at all. So you might have somebody who is very tall or very muscular with a BMI that is quite high, comparatively for medical professionals. You might have somebody who is shorter and perhaps has more fat on their body with a similar BMI. And that would say to you, oh, these people might be the same, but really they are extremely different. And their bodies are going to have different needs. Additionally, back on June 16th, 1998, I know because it was my 18th birthday. So I went to bed at 17 at what was considered at that time the healthy BMI range. And I woke up at 18 overweight. Nothing about my body had changed, but the people on the World Health Board that were determining this just what the body categories were going to be, they decided to shift the categories so that more people then fell in the higher categories, even though none of their own science backed up the change. People decided to do that. So BMI is just very flawed.
And also, there's no indication. I mean, when evaluating someone's internal health, and I think that this is really empowering for people that are listening to this and are potentially dealing with a doctor, with a physician who's not trained in eating disorders, that if they just give you BMI and then look at that as an indicator of your overall health, internal health is measured by all kinds of things, blood work and whether your electrolytes are imbalanced and your blood pressure and all kinds of things that you could never tell from a BMI, correct?
Absolutely. BMI and weight at all are like one tiny indicator about your overall body and possibly related to your overall health, possibly completely unrelated. And there are so many other things internally and externally, quite honestly, that go into what makes somebody feel healthy.
Yeah. And can you talk a little bit about the exercise component that you mentioned when you talked about the 6 principles of health at every size? You talked about exercise. How do we exercise well? Not punishing our bodies, but exercising for the enjoyment of it.
Absolutely. That's an incredibly important question because people get really confused about how to interact with exercise and how to interact with movement. I really think about times when you were younger and you had a lot of play, like your exercise was found in play. And that play was really moving your body in all different kinds of joyful ways. And what I really like to encourage my clients to do is to explore different kinds of movement and see what feels joyful to them, what feels positive for them and their bodies. For some people, something like running really does feel amazing. For some people, weightlifting feels incredibly strong and makes them feel empowered, and they really get a lot of joy out of it. And for other people, those same movements are going to feel like punishment. They're going to feel really painful and not enjoy it at all. And so what we want to encourage is that when somebody wants to engage in movement, they find what brings them happiness and joy. And a place that I often start for that with clients is, what did you love to do when you were young before the world told you that you needed to exercise to burn things or to change your size or to do any of this? What did you just love to do? And let's see what's there.
I love that. Sarah asked, this is good. Sorry, I'm getting over a little bit of a cough here, so I apologize. Sarah asks, what if you really hate exercise?
Then you hate exercise. And that's one of the great things about health at every size as a movement, is that it also lets us know that nobody is morally required to engage in these behaviors. You don't have to exercise if you don't want to, and you are still worthy of respect. You are still a valuable, wonderful human, and you are going to be the best expert on what best takes care of you.
Yeah, absolutely. You know what? I just want to, okay, so I am a history nerd. And one of the really interesting things about exercise is that exercise as a culture really took off in the 19th century, actually, as a part of the whole Victorian era, in the UK and in the United States. But as people started to have more leisure time, but also because there was this movement toward sanitation, which is a good thing, right? We all want bathrooms and all of that.
Positive sewer systems.
Yeah, good sewer systems. This is a good thing, but also a movement toward purity and health, and like an obsession with cleanliness and order and all of these things. And a lot of people then started to bring in a personal workout regimen into their desire to be pure and fit and clean and all of these things. It really took off in the 19th century, along with obviously people having more leisure time, so more opportunity to do these things. And it was kind of that cleanliness is close to godliness concept, that being pure and fit and strong and healthy was turned into a kind of morality. And so this is a recent phenomenon. People have not been doing weightlifting and running marathons for centuries of human history. So this is a recent development, as well as the association of fitness or an exercise regimen with moral purity. So just so you all know, this is a social construct a bit as well. So Rachel, when did the movement start, and when did all of this conversation start to take off? And I'd like to add to that the question: have you seen within the medical community minds start to open about this, and more physicians starting to bring this into their practices?
So health at every size actually started back in the 1960s. It's been around for a long time, kind of simultaneous or slightly after fat activism as a whole took off. And so it's been around for a long time. And I think it is definitely starting to enter the mainstream. I mean, again, it's been around since the 60s, and it's only relatively recently that we're really talking about it a lot. And I definitely have seen physicians' minds opening. I truly believe that physicians want to help their clients. They are there to say, we want to help you be as healthy as you can be. We want to help support you in the body that you support you to have the life that you want. And what we've been taught is that a way to do that is that we need to exist within this really small, narrow range of body sizes and weights. And so we're going to say, let's find ways to get you there. And I think more and more physicians are recognizing what studies show over and over and over again, which is that 95 to 99% of intentional weight loss diets and plans fail. And so that paradigm is not working for people. It is not that 95 to 99% of people fail, and that is really important. And so as we recognize that the paradigm is failing people that we care about, that we went to school, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars learning how to help, we're opening our minds to different avenues and recognizing, hey, this other way of living, it also prioritizes health. It also targets different health factors, different metrics, all of these things. And it does it in a way that helps people stay connected to it and may or may not change their body size, but does change their other health markers. So I definitely see physicians opening to this. I'm fortunate in this area to work with physicians that are very health at every size oriented. My own doctor is a health at every size doctor. I couldn't see anyone that wasn't. And so that's a huge privilege and blessing that I have. And I'm just excited to see it spreading.
Yeah, absolutely. And that leads me to a really good point to remind people when they're watching, if you're not seeing a health at every size doctor, it's a really great question to ask your next doctor. First and foremost, upfront, if they are.
Absolutely.
Amy and Sarah both kind of have a similar question, and so I'd love to pose it to you. Amy says, I have chronic pain, fibromyalgia, and I am told to exercise, but it hurts so badly. Can you address that?
So let me be very clear, I'm not a physician. Yeah. I'm a psychotherapist. And when I have some clients who do live with chronic pain and are trying to find ways through that to have the life they want to have. I would certainly encourage you, if you're able to access this, to see like a physical therapist, somebody who is able to help you address these specific pain issues in a way that feels like it's incorporating you, your values, and your goals for life. When it comes to exercise, is so tricky for so many people. A lot of folks have really complicated relationships with it and histories with it. A lot of times it's very traumatic. And it's important to work with your team of whomever your team is helping care for you, whether it's folks that are friends and family, or whether it's a group of professionals, to meet you where you're at and to help your body find something that's going to hopefully hurt you the least possible and really just be there to support the life you want to live. When I have folks who really are staunchly opposed to exercising, we talk about, what life do you want to live? That's great. How can we best support your body to live that life? And what does that mean you need to do? It's kind of a more functional fitness outlook than it is something like anything more than that. We want you to be able to live your life in the way that you want to, and that your body is going to be able to access. And of course, we also recognize health is made up of so many things that are absolutely outside of our control. And so there may be parts that aren't going to be changed by exercise or changed by different diets or different ways you think about and interact with your body. And so we have to recognize that too, but work from where we're at.
I I love what you said, Rachel, when you acknowledged that there are so many parts of our health that are out of our control.
Absolutely. Tremendous.
Yeah, and I just think that's such an important thing to remember because especially people who have had or are in recovery from an eating disorder, we think we can control everything, but
Mhm.
not possible.
Not possible.
Just so you know. So I'd love to transition to how this affects people in recovery or suffering from eating disorders because there's a lot of black and white thinking about eating disorder bodies are look one way or another.
There
So
really are.
an anorexic person looks like this, a bulimic person looks like this, a binge eating disorder sufferer looks like this. But that's just all false, right?
Completely false.
Thank you.
Untrue.
Yeah.
You can live in any body size, in any body type, and have any eating disorder experience. We are thankfully getting farther and farther away from letting weight define what somebody's eating disorder is, because there are folks who live in bodies my size that have anorexia. There are folks who live in bodies significantly smaller than mine that have binge eating disorder, and you can never, ever tell what someone's diagnosis is based on the body they have. Additionally, and this is something that's been coming up as a theme lately in my work with my Carolina House folks, is there's no way to have a recovered body. Your body is going to be in recovery however it is. So we don't know what your recovery body is going to look like. We don't have a crystal ball. We can't tell. But it can look like however it looks and still be a body in recovery. And that's just really important to remember.
Yeah. And I think it's really important for people who are on that journey, especially if they have to weight restore. And so weight and numbers are a part of the process for them.
Unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah. How do they deal with that? Because I know people that are working on that. I had to work on that. And it is really tough because it's like numbers end up having to be a part of it, but you don't want them to be anymore. And so it's just this weird in your head thing about what shape and size am I supposed to be and the numbers, and how do you get out of that carousel of anxiety?
It's really hard. So let me just totally acknowledge that, because these numbers are there. They're in people's heads, and they really have had such control over folks for so long that breaking away from that is incredibly difficult. So first, validation. So much validation. The other thing that's true, though, is, again, health at every size applies to people across the size spectrum. And so what we are recognizing when we're helping someone restore their body is that their body got to where it is based on behaviors that suppressed their weight in a way that was not what their body wanted. And so we look at somebody's total history and make our best educated guess as to where their body might land. But then at Carolina House, and I also have an outpatient practice. So when you're working with an outpatient team, your dietitian, they are going to be working with your body and working very uniquely for your body with a meal plan that will support it through the process. And our dietitians are these incredible folks who really know how to understand what people's bodies are telling them as they go through this restoration process. So when your body gets to the place where it needs to be and it's happy to be, it's going to let us know that. And that's when we start to shift other things to make adjustments for helping to support your body wherever it lands.
And also once it lands there as well is when you can really start working on your mind. Because if your brain is not properly nourished and your body isn't at the size that it needs to be for optimal wellness, you can't even focus and work on the therapy part, right? Like the underlying emotional stuff that's driving all of the disordered eating patterns in the first place.
Absolutely. There's an extent of that. And the other thing that I always say to my clients of all different sizes is no matter where your body's at coming into treatment, some part of you needs to be restored. Everybody who enters treatment is in some sort of restorative process. That might be your internal organs, that might be parts of your body, it might also be your spirit, it might be your mind. It can be all different kinds of things, but you are here because some part of you needs to be restored, and we're going to help you do that. So everyone's in a restoration process, whether it is physically evident or not.
I love that.
It helps with all of it.
Everyone is in a restoration phase. Can you give some encouragement to people who might be in a treatment program or going to group therapy or in the recovery process and now are starting that comparing their recovery body to other people's recovery bodies? What's the danger of that, and how can you encourage them not to do that?
So that is, again, a very hard thing for all of our clients in treatment together. And we talk a lot about putting on your recovery blinders. You are walking your path with your one unique body. You are not walking everybody else's path. Yes, recovery blinders right here. And recognizing that those comparison thoughts, while they are things that our society kind of drives in some ways, they are also things that that eating disorder experience is 100% driving. The eating disorder wants you to judge yourself and your body based off of other people's bodies, and that's not necessary, and it's only going to despair. Yes, it's only going to harm you and not going to help you. Even when you're using it in a way that's like, I just want to check out, am I okay? Which I think is where it most often comes from is, am I okay? Is my body okay? Am I doing things right? Am I out of control? Like there's a lot behind it that people are actually trying to fact check, but it's a skewed fact checking that's not going to tell your story. It's only going to tell you what other people's stories are.
It's so good. It's a skewed fact check. So transitioning again from the body shape and size discussion for those in the eating disorder community, one thing that thankfully is being talked about more and more as well is that we need to expand the conversation about eating disorders from this idea that it's just middle to upper class white college girls
Right.
that suffer. Are you hopeful that this conversation is expanding? And what has it been like for African American women, gay men, those in the LGBT community, Hispanics, people who are already potentially in a marginalized group that also suffer with eating disorders? Like, this is a problem for everyone, right?
Absolutely, it is. Eating disorders are not discriminatory illnesses. They do not care if you are white, black, brown. They don't care if you have a lot of money or no money at all. It affects everyone across race, across size, across gender, across socioeconomic status, across ability level, that it affects anyone. And so we as a treatment community have to be so much better at reaching out to those folks who exist in those intersectional identities, right? Where not only do they have an eating disorder, but they also have these other ways that society has tried to marginalize them and has misunderstood them. And we have to do a dramatically better job of reaching those people and then following up on reaching out with providing appropriate, competent, compassionate care. There are way too many eating disorder treatment facilities who think that if somebody lives in a larger body, they need to lose weight. There are far too few treatment facilities that treat transgender folks. There are far too few facilities that are really prepared to treat people across an ability spectrum. And maybe I'm not going to compare, but one of the big challenges that people face is treatment is so expensive and very difficult to access if you don't have private insurance in the United States. And so we have to find ways to break down those financial barriers as well, because there are folks who have Medicaid, Medicare, or no insurance at all that suffer and deserve treatment and need care. And so we have our work cut out for us as a community. Thankfully, absolutely brilliant people work within the eating disorder community, and they care so much. And there are so many people who have been impacted by an eating disorder that are ready to pay it forward in every way possible. And so I have tons of hope that we are going to continue to support more and more people who are living with this illness to find their way into recovery.
Yeah. What would you say, or how would you encourage someone maybe who's watching who is um, living with some of those intersectional identities, for example, and they feel like their community is not going to support them if they come out because, oh, only this type of person gets an eating disorder. Your type of person doesn't get an eating disorder. How would you encourage them to find resources? And and how can maybe a loved one who's trying to support someone come alongside them and help them?
Sure. It's an important question. So, your people are out there. I promise, whoever you are and whatever identity you live in, you are not alone. You are not the only person within your identity that also has an eating disorder. You're not alone. And so I am 100% sure your community is out there. What I would encourage people to do is find a safe person, find someone in their life that they know, okay, you're someone I can tell these things to. You're someone I can confide in and I can trust. That might be somebody you've only ever met online. It might be somebody who you see every day in person. It might be somebody that you go to therapy and you see them for the first time and you want to just dive in, but find somebody that you know you can trust and then let them help you. Ask for help. So many of my clients are so scared to ask for help and they don't know how to do that. And they also see themselves as unworthy of receiving help. Everyone is worthy of receiving help. And so find that one person and say, now help me find more people. Help me find a community. My ability to engage in that is low right now. Can I get you to help me? And I promise they're out there.
Yeah. And I'd also like to add to that, one, that if you are someone in a community who is not, you don't find the support there, then maybe you're the person and it's your recovery or it's you opening up and sharing. It opens the floodgates of other people. Oh my gosh, finally someone's talking about this. Me too, you know? And then the second thing, I just want to put this out there because this is going to be living on our Facebook page as well as on our YouTube channel, that we need to do a better job of recruiting diverse clinicians so that people see people that look like them in the treatment community as well. I think that's really important. And Sarah says, what if you don't trust anyone?
That sounds like a really lonely and hard place to be. And even if you don't trust anyone right now, you still are worthy of care and support. And my hope for you is that you are able to find one person you can trust just enough to say, can you help me? And that might also be an organization. It might be like Eating Disorder Hope. It might be like the Alliance for Eating Disorders. It could be an organization that you reach out to and you say, I need help. Can you help me? And you say anonymous. Part of the joy of the internet is we don't have to tell everybody who we are and we still get support and help.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks so much, Sarah, for sharing. So this has been a wide-ranging conversation. We've covered lots of really good topics. I'm going to ask Rachel my last question. So if anyone has any other questions out there that you want to dive in, this is kind of your last opportunity here. Rachel, thank you so much for sharing so much of this wisdom and encouragement. And I think these are things that we all maybe have heard or think in our minds, and having an expert, having someone who works in this field revalidate them is so, so great. Last question for you is, if someone is watching this and they're really struggling right now, they're in a really dark place right now, what encouragement and hope would you want to give or share with them?
So I've been thinking about that, and I think a couple of things. One is what I've said many times throughout this interview is that you are worthy, you are valuable, you belong here, and we're so grateful you're here. Two is there is no wrong reason to have hope and keep going. It could be something that seems very small or insignificant to you, like wanting to know how your favorite TV show ends or waiting for a book series to be over. Or it could be something like, my pets need me and I love them. Or it could be, I really want to accomplish these goals in my life, and if I stop now, I'm not going to get to. And so recognizing it doesn't matter the reason, any reason is a good enough reason to keep going. And just know that you are so valuable and so worthy. And those kind of depression monkeys in your head that tell you that you're not, they're lying. Depression lies. It lies all the time. Eating disorders do too. So there's no reason not to have hope. We are learning more and more all the time, and we are finding more and more ways to help a much broader variety of people.
Wonderful. Such a wonderful note to end on. Rachel, thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.
This has been such a joy. Thank all of you for watching. We'll say goodbye to Rachel.
Bye.
Bye. And I'll say thank you to all of you for your great questions, for your wonderful feedback. I hope that this was an encouraging conversation for you. And just want to reaffirm those great points that Rachel made. You're not alone in the struggle. Reach out for help. You do deserve it. And that last one, no reason is small enough to keep going. Even if it's just, like she said, my favorite TV show, or something really, really small. Have hope and keep going. We are all here with you. You have an online community here at Eating Disorder Hope, and we are supporting you. So that's it for us this week. We will be back with another episode of Weekly Hope next Wednesday. We hope you'll join us. This will be pinned to the top of our Facebook page for the rest of the week if you want to share it with someone, as well as post it to our YouTube channel. So, all right, guys, wonderful to see you all and to have you here. Have a blessed week, and we'll see you next time. Ciao.